Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping into something that, well, it might sound a bit niche at first, the professional accountant's mindset and role. But honestly, stick with us. By the end of this, I think you'll see how the ideas, the challenges, they really apply to almost anyone.
Yeah.
Anyone making decisions in this complex world.
Absolutely. Ethical choices, critical thinking. It's universal.
Exactly. So our guide today is some material from the Role and Mindset Expected of Professional Accountants.pdf. And our mission really is to unpack what it means for these pros to act in the public interest.
Yeah.
How their thinking is changing and some surprising hurdles they face. Think technology, human bias, all that stuff. So let's dig in.
And it's timely, too. It's important to realize this isn't just academic. The profession itself, globally, it's under enormous pressure, scrutiny even.
Right.
So these principles, this mindset, it's more vital than ever, not just for accountants, but for, well, anyone relying on their work.
That really sets the scene. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. The foundation, right? Acting in the public interest. Accountants work everywhere, different industries, different roles. But this is the common thread, this core responsibility.
That's precisely it. It's fundamental. But it gets tricky, doesn't it? The world keeps changing.
How so?
Well, think about technology shifts. AI, big data, that changes how information is handled, how decisions are made. Plus, you always have economic pressures pushing and pulling.
So it's not a static thing, this responsibility. It's constantly being challenged.
Exactly. It demands adaptability, which is why they have guides, frameworks.
Like the International Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants? The code, as they call it.
That's the main one. It provides the ethical map, so to speak. It's essential. Obviously, you have to comply with it.
But I sense a but coming.
Well, yes. The IESBA, the board that sets these standards, they actually point out that just ticking the boxes, just complying with the code, that doesn't automatically mean you fully discharge that public interest duty. Ah, okay. So compliance is necessary, but maybe not sufficient on its own. There's something more needed.
Precisely. Which leads us to mindset. What's going on internally?
And a key part of that mindset is professional skepticism, right? I always think of it like a healthy dose of doubt.
That's a good way to put it. The official definition from auditing standards like ISA 200 talks about a questioning mind being alert and critically assessing evidence, looking for errors or even fraud.
Okay, so like a financial detective.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
Especially for auditors historically. But the big shift now, the really interesting thing, is the push to make this mandatory for all professional accountants.
Oh, not just auditors?
No. The thinking is that this skeptical, questioning approach is fundamental, whatever your role, assurance, advisory, even internal roles.
And the code itself is changing to reflect that.
It is. The latest updates emphasize needing an inquiring mind. That's the phrase they use now. You need it when you apply the ethical rules, when you make professional judgments. It's about being actively curious, not just passively skeptical. An inquiring mind. I like that. It sounds broader than just skepticism.
It is. And it directly supports other key principles, like objectivity and integrity. Should we unpack those?
Yeah, let's do objectivity first. How does the code define that?
It says it's about making professional judgments without being compromised. Compromised by things like bias, conflicts of interest, or, undue influence from others, relying too much on what someone else says.
Okay, staying impartial. Makes sense. But you mentioned a tech angle earlier.
Ah, yes. This is fascinating and so relevant today. The code now explicitly addresses how technology, AI, big data analytics can actually threaten objectivity.
How?
They specifically call out automation bias.
Automation bias, what's that?
It's our tendency to sort of overtrust the output from automated systems, even if other evidence or maybe our own gut feeling suggests something's off.
Oh, right. Like just blindly following your GPS even when the road looks completely wrong?
Exactly. That's a perfect analogy. The code recognizes this is a real risk now with modern assurance tools. You can't just accept the machine's answer without thinking critically. It could impair your judgment.
That's a really practical modern concern. Okay, so that's objectivity and the tech twist. What about integrity? You said that's been strengthened too.
Significantly strengthened. It used to be more about just honesty, straightforwardness. Now, It explicitly includes the determination to act appropriately when you face tough choices, dilemmas.
Determination. That sounds active.
It is. The examples they give are powerful. Things like standing one's ground when facing pressure to do otherwise.
Wow.
Or challenging others when appropriate, even if it might cause problems for you personally or for your organization.
So it's not just about knowing the right thing.
No, the code basically says having the courage to actually speak up, to act on that knowledge is now vital for compliance. It's about moral fortitude.
That's a high bar, but incredibly important, I imagine, in any field where ethics matter.
Absolutely, and it ties right back to that inquiring mind idea.
Right, you said it goes beyond just skepticism. Tell me more about that. What does an inquiring mind look like?
Well, the code paints a picture. It's about having the skills to actually get and understand information properly so you can make reliable judgments.
Okay.
It's also being able to make informed challenges, not just disagreeing, but challenging based on evidence and understanding.
So know your stuff before you push back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And having a sensitivity to the integrity of the information itself. Where did it come from? How is it presented? Is anything missing?
Mm-hmm.
And crucially, it's about having the discipline to kind of hold off on making a final judgment until you've really considered all the relevant pieces.
Resisting the urge to jump to conclusions.
Precisely. The code says accountants need to be inquisitive and curious, actively investigating, always asking, is this information sound? Is it relevant? Is there enough information?
It sounds like being constantly alert.
Yes. Open and alert. That's another phrase they use. Alert for situations or information, or sometimes the lack of information that needs a closer look. Always asking, do I need to evaluate this more critically?
That constant vigilance, it sounds demanding. And I guess that's where our own minds can sometimes trip us up with biases.
Exactly. Our own cognitive shortcuts. The code puts a real emphasis now on being aware of these biases, both individually and common ones that trip up lots of people.
And this is where it gets universally relevant again, isn't it? Because these biases affect everyone.
They absolutely do. They're like silent little gremlins messing with that inquiring mind we just talked about. The code lists several examples, and they're quite revealing.
Okay, let's hear some.
Well, there's anchoring bias. That's where you get stuck on the first piece of information you receive.
Like seeing a really high price first, and then everything else seems cheap.
Exactly that. Or confirmation bias. We all know this one, right? Seeking out information that confirms what we already think and ignoring stuff that contradicts it.
Guilty as charged. We see that everywhere.
Then there's groupthink. That's a danger in teams, where everyone agrees to keep the peace or because they assume someone else has checked things properly. Critical thinking gets suppressed.
Yeah. Nobody wants to rock the boat.
Right. And overconfidence bias, thinking we're better at judging things than we actually are. We've all done that.
Definitely. Any others stand out?
There's automation bias, which we touched on, trusting the machine too much. Availability bias, where we rely too much on information that's easy to recall, maybe because it was recent or vivid.
Oh, interesting.
And representation bias, judging based on stereotypes or typical patterns. Selective perception, where our expectations literally shape how we see things. It's quite a list.
It really is. So the code lists these just to make accountants aware.
Awareness is the first step, yes.
Yeah.
The idea is that if you're aware of these potential traps, you can actively try to reduce the risk and impact they have on your judgment by recognizing the signs in yourself or a situation, and then maybe taking steps like consulting with someone else, getting a fresh perspective, or even bringing in an expert if needed. It's about mitigation.
Okay, so individual awareness is key. But surely the environment matters too. The company culture.
Hugely important. The code really emphasizes this. You can have the best intentions, the most inquiring mind, but if the organizational culture doesn't support ethical behavior, it's incredibly difficult.
So what makes for a good ethical culture, according to the code?
They highlight three main conditions. First, leadership. Leaders and managers have to walk the talk. They need to hold themselves and others accountable for ethical values. Tone at the top is critical.
Makes sense. If the boss doesn't care, why should anyone else?
Exactly. Second, you need the right systems in place. Things like proper education and training on ethics, management processes that support it, and performance evaluations that actually reward ethical conduct, not just hitting targets at any cost.
Building it into the system.
Right. And third, that ethical stance has to apply externally, too. How the organization deals with third parties, suppliers, customers, regulators, it needs to be consistent. Integrity inside and out.
And does this connect to other standards.
Yes, it
Okay.
links up with things like the International Standard on Quality Management 1, ISQM 1. That standard requires firms to set up systems to manage quality, and ethical culture is a big part of that foundation. It's all interconnected.
Okay, so pulling all these threads together,
Yeah.
what's the big picture takeaway here?
I think the big picture is that the role of a professional accountant today goes so far beyond just technical skills or crunching numbers.
Right.
It really demands this robust ethical backbone, this constantly questioning, inquiring mindset, and honestly, real courage, the courage to uphold integrity, especially when things get tough, when there's pressure, or when your own biases might be pulling you off course. It's fundamentally about protecting public trust.
That's a powerful summary. So thinking about our listener now, what's in it for them? Why should someone not in accounting care about all this? I think understanding these challenges, the ethical pressures, the cognitive biases, the need for an inquiring mind, it just sheds light on decision-making generally, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Whether it's in your own job, whatever that is, or even just in your personal life. Thinking critically, acting with integrity, being aware of how you might be biased. These are skills for everyone.
They really are. The principles are transferable.
So maybe here's a final thought for everyone listening to mull over. How could you apply this idea of an inquiring mind more in your daily life, especially with all the information and misinformation flying around today? And think about that automation bias. How much do you trust the algorithms and tech recommendations you encounter every day? Could you benefit from being a bit more critically aware, a bit more courageous in questioning things, even outside the world of accounting?
That's a great question to leave people with. How do these professional standards resonate in our own everyday contexts?
Something to chew on. Thanks for unpacking all that today.
My pleasure. It's important stuff.
It really is. Join us next time for another deep dive.